Welcome to the first lesson of our Oracle Recruiting Cloud certification journey, where we will dive into the foundational setup and core configurations of the system. In this section, you are going to learn how to properly establish the groundwork for your entire recruitment platform, from basic settings to essential security profiles. Understanding these fundamentals is incredibly important because every other feature in the system relies on this initial configuration being done correctly. I am very excited to guide you through these concepts, as mastering them will give you the confidence to tackle both real-world implementations and the certification exam. Get ready to build a strong foundation, and let us jump right into the lesson. The very first place you will visit when configuring Oracle Recruiting Cloud is the Setup and Maintenance Work Area. Think of this as the main control room for your entire Oracle Cloud environment, where administrators go to enable features and adjust system behaviors. For the exam, you need to know that most recruiting tasks are found under the Recruiting and Candidate Experience offering within this area. It is highly recommended that you memorize this navigation path, because exam questions often test your knowledge of exactly where to find specific settings. In a real job, you will spend a lot of time in this control room turning on new features as Oracle releases them. Before you can actually configure anything in that control room, you need the correct permissions, which brings us to user roles. The primary role you need to be familiar with is the Recruiting Administrator role. This specialized security profile grants a user the ability to access all setup tasks, manage templates, and configure career sites. If you ever find that a menu option is missing during a practice exercise, it is almost always because your user account is missing this specific administrator role. Understanding who has access to what is a major theme on the certification test. One of the foundational building blocks you must configure early on is the geography hierarchy. Geography hierarchies define how locations are structured in your system, such as breaking down a country into states, cities, and postal codes. This is crucial for recruiting because it controls how candidates search for jobs by location and how the system calculates things like travel requirements. If your geography hierarchy is broken, candidates might not be able to find a job in their specific city. The exam will expect you to understand that geographies must be imported and validated before you create any job requisitions. Along with geographies, you must understand how Oracle structures your overall business, which is called the enterprise structure. This includes defining your legal employers, business units, and departments within the cloud system. In recruiting, every job requisition must be tied to a specific business unit and legal employer, so the system knows which part of the company is doing the hiring. A common mistake candidates make on the exam is forgetting that a business unit must be active before you can assign a recruiter to it. This structure ensures that hiring data flows smoothly into the core human resources system later on. Deep inside the setup and maintenance area, there is a specific task simply called recruiting settings, which is heavily tested on the exam. This page is a master list of global preferences that affect the entire recruiting application, regardless of business unit. For example, this is where you decide how long an inactive candidate account should remain in the system before it is purged for data privacy compliance. It is also where you set the default country for your phone number fields. You should think of this page as the global rulebook for your candidate experience. To customize the system for a specific company, you will frequently use a feature called lookups. Lookups are simply the customizable lists of values that appear in drop-down menus throughout the recruiting application. For instance, if you want to add a new reason for rejecting a candidate, you would edit the specific lookup code tied to candidate rejection reasons. The exam frequently asks how to modify these drop-down menus, so remember that you cannot delete standard lookups provided by Oracle, but you can usually disable them and add your own custom values. This keeps the data clean and consistent for reporting. Sometimes a company needs to capture specific information that Oracle did not build a standard field for, and that is where descriptive flex fields come in. A flex field allows you to create brand new custom data fields on pages like job requisitions or candidate profiles. For example, if a hospital needs to track a very specific medical license number on a job application, an administrator will create a flex field for it. For your test preparation, remember that after creating or modifying a flex field, you must deploy it before the new field will actually appear on the screen. This deployment step is a very common trap on the certification exam. Another way to control system behavior is through profile options, which are essentially toggle switches that change how the user interface acts. Unlike global recruiting settings, profile options can often be set at different levels, such as for a specific user, a specific site, or the entire application. A great example is turning on a profile option that allows recruiters to see a newly released dashboard feature before it is pushed to all employees. The exam will expect you to know that if a profile option is set at both the user level and the site level, the user level setting usually takes priority. As we build our foundation, we must also set up the library of jobs, starting with job families and job profiles. A job profile is a reusable template containing the standard requirements, skills, and descriptions for a specific position, like a senior accountant. Job families group similar job profiles together, making it easier to report on hiring trends across an entire department. Using these profiles saves recruiters a massive amount of time because they do not have to write a job description from scratch every time they open a requisition. The exam tests your understanding of how these profiles pull data automatically into new requisitions. Communication is critical in hiring, so configuring the automated notifications framework is a major part of the initial setup. Oracle Recruiting Cloud comes with a library of alerts and notifications that are triggered by specific events, such as a candidate applying or an interview being scheduled. You will use the Alerts Composer to modify the actual text of these emails and text messages to match the branding and voice of the hiring company. Exam questions often ask where to go to change the wording of an automated email, so lock the Alerts Composer into your memory. Proper configuration here prevents candidates from feeling ignored. Now we must talk about data security, which determines exactly which records a user is allowed to see. While a job role determines what tasks you can do, a data role determines which specific pieces of information you can apply those tasks to. For example, a regional recruiter might have the ability to hire people, but their data role restricts them to only seeing job requisitions in the European business unit. Security is a complex topic on the exam, so you must clearly understand the difference between what a person can do and what a person can see. This prevents sensitive salary data from falling into the wrong hands. To build those data roles, you will use person security profiles, which are filters applied to the database. These profiles define the pool of candidates or employees a specific recruiter is authorized to access. You might create a security profile based on location, department, or even custom criteria, like a specific job family. On the certification exam, you will likely encounter scenario questions asking why a recruiter cannot see a specific applicant. The answer is almost always related to an improperly configured person security profile that is filtering that applicant out of their view. Before anyone can log in and use these security profiles, they must actually have a user account in the system. In Oracle Cloud, user accounts are typically tied to a person record, meaning the recruiter must exist as an employee in the core human resources system first. There are automated background processes that synchronize employee data to ensure that when a new recruiter is hired, their cloud user account is generated automatically with the right basic access. You should know for the exam that running these synchronization processes is a vital troubleshooting step if a user cannot log in. Let us circle back to geography for a moment to discuss radius search capabilities, which is a very specific system configuration. Once your geography hierarchy is built, you must run a special background process to enable spatial data, which allows candidates to search for jobs within a specific distance from their home. If an administrator forgets to run this specific indexing process, the map-based search functions on the career site will simply fail to work. This is a very common real-world issue and a favorite tricky question on the certification test. Many companies rely on external staffing agencies to help them find talent, and Oracle Recruiting Cloud has a dedicated setup area for this. You can configure staffing agencies as external partners in the system, giving them specialized portal access to submit candidates directly to your open jobs. When configuring agencies, you must define their specific terms, which business units they are allowed to support, and exactly which recruiters can communicate with them. The exam expects you to know how to link an approved agency to a specific job requisition so they can begin submitting resumes. Modern recruiting heavily relies on external partners for things like background checks, drug testing, and tax credit screening. Oracle handles these connections through a centralized integration framework where administrators enter the digital keys and passwords provided by the third-party vendors. Setting this up correctly allows a recruiter to click one button and automatically send a candidate's data to a background check company without ever leaving the Oracle system. For the exam, understand that you must configure the vendor credentials in the setup area before you can add a background check step to a candidate's workflow. The last major foundational piece is configuring the Oracle search framework, which powers the keyword searches used by both candidates and recruiters. This search engine requires administrators to build specific indexes, so the system knows exactly which fields to look at when someone types a word like Java or marketing. If a recruiter complains that they cannot find a candidate they know exists, it is usually because the search index needs to be rebuilt or refreshed. Remembering that search indexes must be manually scheduled to update regularly is a key piece of exam knowledge. To summarize our foundation, a successful Oracle recruiting implementation requires careful attention to roles, geographies, security, and global settings. Every lookup value you create, every flex field you deploy, and every security profile you assign forms the invisible architecture that keeps the hiring process running smoothly. When you sit for the exam, keep in mind that the system is highly logical, and most configuration tasks are designed to protect data or standardize the user experience. By mastering these setup and maintenance tasks, you have successfully built the stage where all future recruiting activities will take place. I want to sincerely congratulate you for completing this first and highly important section of the course. To ensure this foundational knowledge truly sticks, I highly encourage you to complete the practice test attached to this lesson. Taking practice questions is the absolute best way to improve your memory retention and build your exam readiness, and this included test will help you identify exactly which configuration concepts you have mastered. Active learning through testing is your secret weapon for certification success. Keep up this excellent momentum, and I look forward to seeing you in the next section where we will dive deeply into job requisitions and candidate sourcing.